Good morning and happy Friday. The weekend is here, for the most part, anyway. Hopefully, you guys having a good day, and hopefully, you're excited for the weekend like I am because this has been a long week, very long week. But welcome to the today's episode. Is Christianity a culture? Um, this is a two-sided question. Um, because it is a question as well as a response. Um, I think for a long time, the world has looked at Christians as an odd group of people because we ourselves cannot seem to get it together what we actually are. The majority of Christians don't actually know anything about what they're actually about. They have a concept, but that concept keeps changing ever so often. I'm going to show you something, and I want your memory portals to start flipping in your head real quick. Okay, so tell me if you remember this. Do you remember this? Do you remember these? When these were all the rave, these were the things to have to prove that you were a Christian. You were not a really good young Christian, especially if you didn't have one of these bracelets. See, this bracelet proved that you were really, really, really a Christian. The other marker of a Christian was the type of music you listened to. That was another true sign of a Christian. And then it went to, yes, the fish. That's the next one I was talking about. The that Jesus fish. Okay. And then it went to um, you had to dress a certain way. And I'm not talking about the old Quaker way. I'm talking about the new modern way of women dressing and men dressing. And then that went out the door to include anything you want to wear. And then it went from always talking about God to you don't really have to talk about God. You just have to accept people. And then that went from there to um, you don't need to identify as a Christian at all. You just need to say it. I- I'm going to take this statement as a wanting discourse, not as divisive for now. But I'll give you a little bit of insight. In Arkansas, there were quite a few black churches that I attended. And I can assure you, Keith, that that bracelet was everywhere. It did not have a race attached to it, like at all. At all. I don't even know where the concept of white church culture even came from in this discussion. But I'm glad you said this because it proves one very important thing that clowns today still want to separate Christianity into white and black. And fools, now I'm not, you know what? I'm taking it out of the realm of polite and discourse. Clowns like Keith are more than happy to perpetuate this crap all the time. White this, black that. Just crazy to me. Looking like a reject from a video game and a 2D video game. But I'm glad he said it in some ways. So let's talk about your black culture of Christianity. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Is your definition of black church culture fat old lady sitting in the corner fanning? Is that your identity of black culture church? Wearing that big broad rim hat? How about a pastor in a nice long gown and a church choir singing and everyone's sweating, everyone's overweight? Is that black church culture? Or how about this? How about the preacher constantly screaming and everyone in the church sleeping with the pastor? Is that black church culture? Is it black church culture? Just a question. Because I can also prove to you that that happens in so-called white churches too. So I digress from the stupidity of the race baiters out there. These moronic people that can't seem to take their color out of their eye for 5 stinking minutes to see the world as it is, where every stinking thing you think about is the color of your skin. And when people identify you by the color of your skin, you have a problem with that too. That's how stupid you people are. And yeah, I'm a little bit adamant about it because I'm sick and tired of the nonsense of the white-black dynamic constantly being pushed in people's faces. You don't want to be called black, but you're quick to point out black church and black this. Y'all are just stupid. Like it's you have to have a mental block somewhere. There has to be something innately wrong with your brain. Like there's rot going on in there. Like there has to be brain rot going on in there. You don't want to be called black. You don't want to be identified as black, but every damn thing that comes from your mouth is black, 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 black. Stop. You're the first clowns to talk about racism while perpetuating racism. And then you take it so far to bring it into the body. When it has no bearing whatsoever on the church. None. It doesn't have a place. It doesn't have a function. Nothing. And you wonder why people can't seem to find God. You wonder why people can't find God. It confirms for me that today Christianity is a culture. It's not following God anymore. It's about where you fit in because of how you look and how you think and what you want. It has nothing to do with God anymore. That clown just proved it. What the heck is a black church? Please tell me what a black church is. Besides that, tell me what a white church is. What, for that reason, what a modern day church is. You keep repeating the same thing, Keith. That tells me you're of low intelligence. You are of absolute low intelligence, low IQ, missing link. That's you. And I can tell that just from the look of your picture. You're the kind of person that will perpetuate the same thing you don't want perpetuated on you. That's how slow you are. You guys bring stuff into Christianity that has zero bearing on it. You don't ever follow the person it's about. You follow the preacher. You follow the system. It's a cult to you. All black churches have to behave the same. That's a black church. They have a certain way of functioning, black church. White churches don't do anything to do with rhythm. That's a white church. Without you even realizing it or whether you realize it. You are the ones that actually create a culture called Christianity, while it has zero to do with Christianity. I want someone to show me anywhere in any of the passages that mention a race or color or creed than when it comes to Christianity. I want anyone to show me where it says the church and it separates it by anything. I will never understand it, but at the same time, I fully do. And the only thing I can chalk it up to is stupidity. I cannot chalk it up to anything else but stupidity. Absolute moronic thinking. Dead serious. It has to be something. It is more than spiritual. It has to be more than spiritual. There has to be something cognitively wrong with you to always harp on the one thing you tell other people not to harp on. But it makes sense. Every time I bring up a topic, there's always one prime example that pops into the chat, and he was it. He was it. He proved exactly why today there are more people going the route of atheists than there are coming to God. He just proved why. All week we talked about stuff. People leaving the church because the church can't make up its mind what it actually is. You see how dumb this clown is? Jesus wasn't a Christian. He was and still is Palestinian Jew. Do you see how and why the church can never move forward? Do you see why now? Do you understand now? There are so many people that are absolutely filled with brain rot. They say stupid stuff like this. Please tell him why Jesus would never have been a Christian anyway. Please tell him why. Please tell this clown why Jesus could never have been a Christian. Somebody please educate Keith, please. I'm looking at Keith's picture right now, and I can tell that Keith probably is mentally deficient. Like dead serious, you have to be mentally deficient. You can't be possibly talking to me as a full grown adult. It has to be short bus. Obviously, Jesus was not a Christian. Who has to tell you that? Who in their right mind has to tell you that? You, more and more, I'm believing in the 144,000 going only. Regardless of what it actually means, I'm seriously convinced now that it's only 144,000 gonna make it because the rest of y'all not functioning normal. Jesus was not a Christian. No, duh. No, duh. Say something that we don't know. No, duh. Look, you want to see why the church is in absolute disarray right now, why there are 15 different million denominations and everybody else is following their own. People like Keith. People like Keith who don't even know how to decipher anything that's written. People like Keith who don't even know anything about Jesus but are quick to say his name. People like Keith who will perpetuate something that he heard from some ridiculous preacher somewhere, some back in time, and figured that sounded really cool. I'm going to keep saying that. Yeah, so it's convinced me now that church definitely is, and Christianity definitely is a culture, and a horrible one at that. An absolute horrible culture because it is filled with people like Keith, people who don't have a stinking clue what they actually believe. None. People who have no concept what salvation actually is because they're too hell bent on separation. Their idea of unity is in similarity. Similarity. If you look like me, and it's always in regard to themselves, not in regards to God. It's always in regards to themselves. If you think like me, TD Jake said it, mind you, black, right? TD Jake said it. If you don't find a church that agrees with how you're living, go find one that does. If you're going to one right now and it doesn't agree with the way you live, go find a church that does. Go find a culture that you can blend into. Go find a black church. Go find a white church. Go find a pro-gay church. But they're all Christian. It has become a melting pot of discourse. A melting pot of discourse. I go to a black church. I go to a predominantly white church. Well, I can tell you what you're not going to is a God church. If that's how you describe the so called church you go to, you are not going to God's church. You're going to your own. You're going to your own. There is no color, creed, race in the body. But that's all that seems to come from people anymore. We are a progressive church. We are a modern day church. We are a black church. We are a white church. We are a Hispanic church, Orthodox church, all following everything but God, all creating a whole different dynamic within their own people that have nothing to do with God. Not a thing. They even talk about Christian culture influencing government and influencing this and influencing that. Christian culture influencing it. It's almost as though the term Christian has now superseded God. It has now superseded God, completely superseded him. It's no longer God's way, it's Christian culture. It's how Christians behave. It's not what would God want, it's how Christians behave. And if you have to ask, what would Jesus do? You obviously are not following Jesus. Because the question shouldn't pop into your head. I wonder what he would do in the situation. It should already be known to you. People come to government office and they talk about the right way to live. And none of it has any, and I mean anything to do with God. They will herald back to how they were brought up in a certain type of church. They will talk about how they were brought up in a certain type of family, but they never herald back to the origin and the person of God. I do not believe that that is the final number. I'll leave it like that. I believe there are a set number of people that were selected by God who I have no idea who they are in that 144. It's just what I believe. But since I don't care because I am doing what I am doing to follow God, and whatever He decides, He decides. That's seriously how I'm looking at it. That's seriously how I'm looking at it. He said he wanted all to come, all to come to repentance. That's what he said. I am part of the all, and I am going to try my very dead level best to submit myself fully to the all. That is all I can do. At the end of it all, I am not the one making any calls about access to heaven. I am not one making any of the calls about who makes it and who doesn't make it. I am not in charge of that. He set down a certain procedure. I followed the procedure and I'm continuing to stay on the course of the procedure. If at the end of it all, hear me clearly, if at the end of it all, he says no, he says no. You know why I look at it that way? Because I am not God. And whatever he does, he has the right to do. Whatever he does is right. Whatever he does is completely warranted. Anything he does is completely warranted. And I mean anything. I don't care because he is God and I am not. I don't get to dictate my feelings upon him. I don't get to put my 2 cents in of what he should do. I don't get that. I was never given that right. I can't usurp that right. And I don't want that right. I don't. Whatever number makes it to heaven, makes it to heaven. Whoever gets a special seat gets a special seat. However that works, it works. My only chore here while alive is to stay within the confines of his grace. Point blank, period. If he has an elected 144,000 that we don't know who they are, it's his call. If he comes back and burns the earth and rebuilds it, that's his call. If he explodes the earth and takes us to some ethereal place, it's his call. I don't care. And I don't care because whatever he does is good. You will never hear that from the pulpit. You will always hear that man has a special place in God's heart, and God will do whatever he has to do to reach you. That's what you'll hear. Not that you have to give up whatever you have to give up to be with God. You will hear God will always be the one to give up whatever and do whatever he has to do to get to you. He already did that. Let's get this straight. God already did that. He did everything to reach you already. He doesn't need to do anything more. He really doesn't. He did everything he could possibly do already, and it was done on the cross. There is nothing more he could do to reach you. Nothing. From that point on, it's on you. God can't do anything more. He gave everything. He gave it all. He has nothing left to give you, nothing left to offer to bring you, nothing else. He doesn't have to do a single thing more for me at all for the rest of my life to warrant my praise. He doesn't have to do a single thing more. He could literally just sit back and do nothing else for me, not provide, not care. He doesn't have to do any of that to warrant my following. He doesn't. We keep putting this, if you just show me, he don't have to do none of that. He doesn't. When people ask me, how is it so simple to trust God and to follow God? Here's how it's simple. And I told somebody I was going to answer them the question eventually when I thought about it. Now I thought about it. Here's why it's easy to follow God. Because following yourself has not gotten you anywhere. Anywhere. And it will never get you anywhere. And the only thing keeping anyone from following God is themselves. Not a circumstance, not a history, yourself. And the sooner you understand that you're the selfish one and that you are the one that just wants to hold on to what you want, whether that's the belief that you're not worthy or the belief that you're overly worthy, either belief will keep you from God, and it's up to you. That is on you. That is not on him. It's on you. He doesn't have to prove himself at all. He created earth. You don't have to believe it, but he did it. He gave his son. You don't have to believe it, but he did it. There is nothing more God has to do to justify your worship of him. Nothing. The reason why people will not follow God is because they value themselves more than God. They put their trauma above God. The pastor did this, so I can't follow God. My mom and my dad did that, can't follow God. What did God do to you? The culture of Christianity excludes God. They want all the fringes and the fringe benefits of God, but none of the meat and potatoes. Christians are now just looked at as good people. That's it. They're nice. They're pleasant people. And they follow this thing called God. And they talk about this other guy named Jesus. You're bandwagoners now. Might be a tough pill to swallow, but Christianity today is not actual Christianity. We've talked about this. It's like LeBron versus MJ. Why do I say that? When MJ got asked about being the greatest, he said, I ain't even talking about that. That's no. When people see what they see, they're gonna say what they gotta say, right? Okay. LeBron, are you? Of course, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. You need to recognize I'm the greatest. People don't recognize you as the greatest, clown. You're not. People see MJ as the greatest because he didn't ask to be seen as the greatest. They watched his work and they call him the greatest basketball player ever. And they watch your work and they see it's trash and they will not call you the greatest ever. It's the exact same premise for Christians. They should not have to have you tell them, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm the best Christian. I'm a really good Christian. In fact, I'm a diligent Christian. You should not have to tell anyone that. They should be able to watch your body of work and say, wow, that's a Christian. That is exactly how the originals got identified. It was not because they went around talking in a culture of Christianity. They didn't create the word for themselves and say, we're Christians, so call us that from here on out. They didn't do that. They were identified as Christians because they behaved like Christ. And they recognized it. It was seen by others. Whether people acknowledged it or not, it didn't affect their behavior. And they didn't have to go announcing anything. Today, you have to have a catchy church title for people to come. You have to have a fancy music band for them to come. You have to preach the things that will make them want to listen for them to come. You have to make sure that the whole fanfare of it, everything in the church looks nice for them. You have to have coffee for them to come. You got to have clothes for them to come. You got to have food for them to come. You got to have a potluck for them to come. You have to have a bouncy castle for them to come. It's culture. You got to entice them with something other than God to come tell them about God. You got to lie to them in order for you to tell them truth. And then you want them to believe you? Christianity today is not Christianity. Christianity today is all smoke and mirrors. It's all fake. They don't want anything to do with the relationship of God, but they want all the benefits. They want to make it to heaven and have nothing to give up for it. They had God give up everything for them while they want to sit down and give up nothing in exchange. Christian culture. Christian culture. It's all about the song you sing. How loud can you sing it? How much does a song make you feel right? What kind of emotion does the pastor bring up in your soul? Not whether it's true, just whether it stirs you. How many programs do you guys have? How energetic is your worship service? Does your sermon go longer than 30 minutes? Are you participating in social justice? Are you keeping current with the times and updating your software for your PowerPoint? How's the budget? How much money do we have to spend on pamphlets? Do you really honestly believe that any of that trumps God's influence on a life? Why is it difficult for us to just present God to people and not understand that He is enough? You don't need fanfare. You don't need the indulgences. You don't need the pomp and circumstance. You don't need the flair. You just need to show them God. Why is He not enough for church culture today? Why is He not enough for Christian culture today? Why? When did He become insufficient? When did He become obsolete? When did we decide that the color of my skin, the history of my upbringing, is the marker for which church I attend? You see, this whole concept of church and Christian culture is the reason why God is now viewed the way He is. It's the logic behind everything. We allowed philosophy and we allowed architecture and we allowed man made cultures to ruin God's presence. I shouldn't say ruin, trumpet. Jaw, I know we get along. Okay. I know we get along and we're friends and all that. And you follow the channel and Too Strong and all of that. Okay. But I want to make one thing abundantly clear to everyone listening now. I want to make one thing abundantly clear. If I have never made it clear before, I am not John. I am not John, the brother. I am more like John, the Baptist. I am more like Peter. I was never given timidity as a talent. Never was. I do not and will not apologize for my delivery system. I will scream at you if I have to. I will be loud if I have to. I will berate you if I have to. And I have no equivocations of my delivery method. None. I keep saying I'm not for everyone. Not everyone can say the things I say the way I say it and not have to apologize later. Everything I say comes from a location of conviction. And if I say it to you, I mean it. I do not apologize for anything I say, how I say it. I love everyone in the room, but I'm not going to be sissy-footing around anything. Name one profanity I said today. Jaw, just one. Just name me one profanity I used today. Please tell me one. I'm waiting for today. Give it to me one. I'll wait. I will wait. Give me one. I'm waiting. You mentioned it. I'm waiting. Damn. Damn is a cuss word. Did you know that's in the Bible, right? You know, ass is also in the Bible. You are damned to hell. Did you know that's in the Bible? Is the word a curse word? You're not answering my question. Is that word a curse word? And then define a curse word. I want you to define curse. Tell me, what does curse mean? We'll get to the bottom of this. Tell me what curse is. What is a curse word? No, 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 Jaw. I know you know better, right? I know you know better. What is a curse word? What is a curse word, Jaw? Profanity. What is a curse word? A curse word is not profanity. For that case, what is profanity? Tell me what profanity is. What is profane? What is profane? I'm going to show you how much church culture has confused people. Another prime example. Please tell me, what is profane? I really want to know what profane is. You're not going to use it or spell it. You can't define profane. You don't want to type out or use what is profane? What is the meaning of profane? What is profane? Describe profane. It's a pretty simple question, Jaw. See, this is the problem here. This is the biggest problem here. Not going to answer me, Jaw? What is profane? The same people that tell you you can't say stuff like that are the same people that tell you you can't call somebody a fool because the Bible says don't call anyone a fool. When it says don't call your brother a fool. Now tell me if any of those two things fit what I said. Tell me if any of those two definitions fit what I said. People ain't gonna have. So if it fits, then don't listen, Jaw. Here's a case. Here's I'm gonna say this seriously. As much as I love you, Jaw, as much as I love you, if that is how you see my language, stop listening. If that is how you saw my language, stop listening to me now. Because all you are going to do is sully and dirty your soul by sitting in front of someone that speaks like me if I'm being profane. Do not listen to me if I am profane because I'm not apologizing for anything I said. So you have two choices at this point, Jaw. Stop listening to me and quit the channel because I'm not apologizing for anything I said. Those are your options. I no longer have anything to offer you. I'm the false preacher that everyone talked about. I'm the false pastor that everyone talked about. I'm so full of myself and I cuss all the time. If that's how you feel about it, stop listening. I am not here to please people. I'm not here to kowtow to anybody's feelings. I am not here for that. Y'all have enough of that in the church. You got plenty of that. You got tons of pastors that do that all the time. That ain't me. It is not me. Y'all want to get your feelings in a bunch and pennies in a bunch and be hurt? Please, whatever. Do what you got to do. Do whatever you got to do. Go find somebody else that you fully agree. It's like I said, church culture ain't about finding God, it's about finding people you agree with. Christian culture is no longer about God, it's about who you can agree with. And they will find any and all reasons to not listen to anything about God if it goes against what they want to hear and how they want to believe. And if they want to believe one thing, regardless of what else you say, and you're not saying what they believe, you're off. And they will harp on that thing because it's not what they believe. They can't prove to you anything biblically about it or from God, but it's not what they believe. So they stop. You want to know why there are hundreds of thousands of denominations? You want to know why there are so many silly, ridiculous preachers around? You want to know why? Because each wants to preach what people want to hear. Each wants to preach what they want to hear. Jaw, for the final time, I don't care. If you mute or are hurt by anything I say, I don't care. And if you have been listening to me for forever, you should know this. You should know by now I do not apologize. Because the things I say, I am 100% convinced about. And no one has yet to be able to tell me why I can't, biblically or from God. They can't. You would be the same one that looked at people like Stephen talking to the Sanhedrin and tell them you're a brood of vipers. That would have been considered cursing them. That would have been considered cursing them. But he did not curse them. He told them exactly what needed to be said. And that will always be what I do. Always. To the point where fools, the word fool was forbidden to be talked about your brother, but it was used quite frequently towards the fools. In the book, you fools, who have warned you? The word fool was directly said, do not call your brother a fool. That's how strong the word fool is. But it was freely used against the clowns of the day that were indeed fools. It would have been considered a curse. It would have been considered a curse. But church culture, Christian culture, has now put us in a place where we believe that a feeling trumps God. Something unsettling to our soul trumps God. Something uncomfortable trumps God. Can't scripturally prove anything to me, but it trumps God. Just crazy. It's just crazy, man. I ain't gonna block you, y'all. I ain't gonna block you. But understand this: call whatever you want to call what I said a curse, but you have yet to prove to me that it is. I want you to be sure of something. You have said something about me. This is how bad it is. You've said something about me that you are yet to prove, but are fully believing it's what I did. I want you to be clear about this. You have accused me, you've accused a brother of something that you are yet to prove he did. Point number two as to why the church isn't the way it is. This is all why it is all culture based. Nah, nah. You see, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. That's not your option, see. You threw the allegation out. You came sideways. You did, not me. You did. My inbox is completely open. You could have had this discussion quietly. You could have done that. You could have easily, we have enough of a rapport that you could have come to me. That's also biblical, by the way. You and I have rapport that you could have come to me personally in private via my inbox to talk about it. You didn't do that. You decided to accuse me on my channel of cursing. I want you to be sure of how this went down. You say you follow the book, you read the book, you're always in the book, and you went completely against the book right off the top. It tells me a lot. It really does tell me a lot. Which is why I never look for approval from anyone. I don't need people's approval. I don't need anybody's upliftment for what I say because I'm not looking to man for that. The church does that plenty enough, looking for man to approve what they say. We have spent way too much time as so called believers placating to man. We have spent all our time trying to facilitate people. We've spent all of our time trying to please man and say what they want to say and make them feel good about where they are and try to help them see that, oh, you're not that bad. We have taken Christianity and made it a cult. We've taken Christianity and make it a social club. And then when that social club goes against our grain, we find a different social club to go to. And when that social club messes with us, we find another social club to go to. Meanwhile, we're not even looking to see who the head of the social club is. We don't even care who the head of the social club is. They have an insignia. They get an insignia. No, you're not saying it out of love. Because if it was out of love, you'd have done it in private. I want you to understand something, Jaw. If it was out of love, you would have done it in private. Because we have a connection, we have history. It's not like you're a random person that popped into the live. You know full well I've opened my inbox to anyone. You've been here long enough to see my email. You've been here long enough to see all of the contact information, and you have not used it. You see exactly how people who come in here randomly that don't know me get treated. And you knew better. But it's okay. Do as you please. Do as you please. Do as you please. But I'm not part of church culture and I'm not part of Christianity culture. I say what I say, and I'm not apologetic for it, and I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm not wrong, and you are yet to show me how. If you do say I'm wrong, you are yet to show me from the Bible how. No, no, no. No, no, no. Stating your opinion versus an accusation are two completely different things. So do not try to deflect now. And I know you're wise enough to know the difference. You know full well there was a massive difference. Both here, Too Strong, and The Mix, we have always left it open for you to contact us directly on all those platforms. We're not like any other show. We are not like any other platform on YouTube. We're not high and mighty. We're not so far away that you can't talk to us. We are regular people following God, and we've always left our inboxes open. We put it on at the end of every show. We talk about it. We dump it into messages. We do all of that, and we take your messages. That has never, ever been a limiting factor. Ever. The invitation has always been open for people to talk to us via inbox. And you can ask anyone in here who has inboxed me if I've not replied to them. You can ask anyone. People have inboxed me about issues they have with me directly. And we've been able to discuss stuff. And that should have been your first move, not your last. That's what's really upsetting me right now. It's not so much what you're accusing me of, is that you did it the way you did it. Considering that you've been following both Too Strong and my channel for quite some time. That's my interesting. That's the biggest thing. That is the biggest problem here. I would say about 60% of the audience members right now have contacted me before. And they've gotten a response. If you had that big of an issue, you could have talked to me privately. Especially considering you're the one that always harps on the word. The word said that. The word said that. And he even said to do it before you worship. He said, before you even bring an offering, go make it right with your brother. If your brother offends you, take it up with him one on one before you even step into the realm of worship. It didn't say go in front of the entire place and call that brother out. Never said that. But then again, this is part of Christian culture. Christian culture has become this ground for anything I feel I should do, I can do. Without any basis, but if I feel it, I'll do it. I don't want to be a part of Christian culture. I'm done with Christian culture. If I'm not part of God's culture, I'm not a part of anything. I'm not. Today's culture has become a me first, what I want first, how I want it. Pastor needs to agree with me. Pastor needs to see it the way I see it. He needs to say what I want him to say. What he says, I have to agree with. He can't make me upset. He can't piss me off. He can't make me uncomfortable. That's Christian culture now. So let me ask you this, Jaw. This is a legit question. Do you believe it's Christian to be talking to your brethren like that? You call me out about how I say things, and that's how you speak to your so-called brothers. Is that correct? Is that godly? Isn't that the same as calling your brother a fool? That's directly condemned by the book? It's a legit question. You say you don't curse. Good, you don't curse. No, no, no. Turn the other cheek. Remember, all of it's in the book. You are the one that are calling people out for not being godly. If you want to be the one that's perfect, turn the other cheek. You think I shouldn't, then you shouldn't. Set the example. Show me that you are better than I am when you call me out. Show me you're better. Show me and give me a reason to have to listen to your instruction about cursing. These people who you used to be so-called brothers and sisters with, when you greeted them, you are now addressing like this. Again, is that biblical? Plank, speck, you get it? That plank and speck. This is not me coming for your throat. It is not a distraction. You may not want to learn this lesson, and I get it. It's a difficult one. But the thing you're calling so called me out for that you can't prove biblically, I am calling you out for something that I can prove biblically. That's the difference. There is a big difference here, Jaw. I'm calling you out on something that you can literally find in the book while you're calling me out on something that you can't. And if I can, and I did show you that's in the book, why are you continuing with it? Why not just say, it's against God? I'm sorry to everyone in the room. Why not say that? Why not do the turning of the other cheek and say, you know what? I'm sorry. I can tell you why. I could tell you why. And it's not distracted, John. This is you see, this is a good lesson. This is not about distraction. You have to understand something about what you just did. It is normal. It had become normal for you not to see that as a problem. It's a hard pill to swallow. I get it. And this is not me coming at you because I don't love you, because if I didn't love you, I'd just boot you from the room. If I did not love you, I would boot you from the room. But I want more from God's people. I expect God's people to promote Him first. I want nothing more than for us to be able to function the way He wants us to function. And that means calling out every manner of evil as it is and not caring. And that means seeing the dysfunction in the so called church and calling it out and fully returning to everything that He has called us to. Nothing more. Nothing more. My use of the word damn is no different than the use of the word viper. And fools in the book. If you look at the target audience, you will understand. If you look at how Stephen did it, you will understand. The same way people say you shouldn't be violent, but Jesus was to a certain audience, you would understand. You fools who have warned you to flee from the coming judgment. He said stuff like that to people that were not a part of his body all the time. We have to leave this nonsense that was created for us to follow by man. We have to leave it behind. This whole dynamic that has now been placed on so-called church, we have to walk away from. It is no longer representing God. Whatever it started as is what is no longer, and we cannot continue to be a part of it. If that means tonight you have to start your own in-home service where you bring people in that are gung-ho, dead set on doing the way God said it, do that. Because that's where they met anyway, was in their homes. They didn't go to a big old elaborate building and have a single preacher that takes all their money. That is not how it worked. That is how man wanted it to work, because man saw an opportunity to make money. You meet in your homes, each one in the week is engulfed with God, and they bring it together, and each one brings something that they've been talking to God about, some revelation He's made clear to them, some word He's given them. That is church. Not this you come and sit down and you fold your arms and somebody tells you some stuff and you believe it and go home. That ain't it. That is not it. We are called to something that's not us. We are called to something that is not us, that has no division in it. But we are also called to that thing which separates us. And that thing that separates us is the thing that will keep us so adamant about the separation that we will say it out loud. No, I am. And it's not because of jaw. It's not because of jaw. Because whether you believe it or not, this thing is heartbreaking. Believe it or not, this is heartbreaking. What is happening in the so called Christian realm is heartbreaking. To see that people are abusing the cross, abusing the gift of God, abusing his grace day in, day out, day in, day out is heartbreaking because they almost don't realize how much they are spitting in his face. And the ones that do, like the heads of it, continue to do it. That's why it's heartbreaking. I don't want this is misunderstanding to remain, so I'm going to clarify this. My adamant behavior is not rooted in anger. I want that to be abundantly clear. I keep trying to tell people you have not seen me angry because I don't get angry anymore. I got real close when that person mentioned my daughter. That was the closest I've gotten. But you guys have not seen me angry. You have seen me adamant. But I will not, and cannot change that. I see people walking towards a cliff and they have headphones on. And a simple tap on the shoulder is not going to stop them from turning into splattered meat at the bottom of that canyon. I have to scream and I have to charge them and knock them back off the ledge if I have to. And if after I've done that, they get up and head right back to the cliff, I am leaving them to do so. But they can never say that they were not warned. They cannot say that they did not get the alarm bells raised, and they cannot say that I didn't care enough to scream the truth at them. They will never be able to say that. They will never be able to tell me that I didn't care enough to be mean sometimes. They won't be able to tell me that. They won't be able to say I didn't do all I could have done to break them off of that stupor. I will exhaust every possibility. I speak quiet when I have to, and I get loud when I have to. But they can't say I didn't try. I wasn't convinced of some things before starting this journey with Straight Talk. And I have to thank, I told you guys this before, I have to thank Corey because he saw it. He saw it. He saw what I was running from. He saw I was trying to go to something that had no meat, no potatoes, and he knew what I was supposed to be doing. And he was right because that was revealed to him for me. And I would not have listened to anybody else. And I have fully embraced it now. I have fully embraced it. That the personality I have is not a deterrent to God's work. And so I can't leave it. If you have any ties to the title of Christian in today's society. Cut it and get back to the real. Get back to the real. Don't announce that you are. Let people see it. You don't have to tell people what you are. They should be able to see it. They should be able to know right off the top what you are and let them attribute that to you. If you defend anything, defend the gospel. And if you defend it adamantly. And if any of this doesn't make sense to you, I think you know what I'm going to say next. If any of this doesn't make sense to you, do what? I'm going to wait to see if it's taken root yet. If any of this doesn't make sense to you, what do you do? I want to see if I'm doing beating my wings against the air or just flapping my hands around. What are you supposed to do if any of this doesn't make sense to you? Thank you. That is all I want you to do. That's all I want you to do. If nothing else, if I do nothing else, if I don't push you to do anything else, if nothing of what I say does anything else but take you back to the author, I'm happy. I am stoked about that. If the things I'm saying anger you, make you distraught, even if it makes you happy, take it back to the author. He's the only one that clarifies anything for anybody. He left the door open for you to do that all the time. It should be your go-to anyway. It should be what you normally do anyway. And that means from hearing it anywhere. You hear it at church, take it back to the author. You hear it from a friend, take it to the author. You hear it from an enemy, take it to the author. It should be your first and only line of defense. And it should become so normal that he should be right there the instant they say it, that he gives you the answer. It should be a quick fire. But if it's not quick fire for you yet, make it so. Make it so that when someone says something to you, the author is right there to answer the question. Not you, not your hopeful feelings, the author. I don't want people saying, I learned this from Marlon and I learned this from Straight Talk. I want people to come back and say one day, you led me to the author and the author made everything in my life clear. Thank you for directing me to the author. I don't want you to tell me thank you for what you said. If anything that you should be thanking me for at all is directing you to the author, nothing more. I don't want praise for anything I say. I don't want none of that. I don't want accolades. I didn't put me here. I didn't put me here. And if you are not going to him for everything you do, everything, then you are not living up to the potential that a Christian faith should be living up to. You are not doing what he asks you to do, and you are not living the way he asks you to live. He wants constant communication with you. He needs to be a part of your everyday decision making. He needs to be part of everything you say. That has to be the truth. That has to be normal. And sometimes he has to get a little bit boisterous with people. If you remember correctly, there are many ways in the Old Testament that he showed up. Sometimes in a soft voice, and sometimes in a tornado, sometimes in a pillar of fire, in a bush. He does not just have one way only. He can show up flipping tables. Don't limit your God. Please don't limit God. He will do what has to get done for you. But most of all, you have to realize that what he's already done is sufficient. It's sufficient. Here's my suggestion, Hester. You speak to him until you hear it. You speak to him until you hear it. If you are really wanting to hear his voice, if you really, really are intent on hearing his voice, pray until you do. Pray until you do. Be like Jacob. Wrestle, wrestle until you get that blessing. Wrestle it. You stick with it until you can't no more. You want to hear it? Talk to him until he talks back. I have a question not relevant. When we pray, does he answer for someone on the other side of the world and we never know? He answers the prayers that are in his will. He answers the prayers that are in his will, which is why he says, in my name. If he doesn't have his stamp on his name on it, it won't happen. Which is why you say, in his name. The title in his name does not solidify your want. It matches your want to his will. And if it doesn't match his will, it doesn't get answered the way you might want it. A king doesn't put his signia on things that he doesn't approve of. It now comes in the name of the king with his stamp on it. Boom. When they read it, in the name of the king, blah, 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 blah. The king decreed that. But when you ask God something in his name, you are asking him, if it is in your will for this to take place, I'm asking for it. It is my petition that I want a car. Please, God, give me a car in your name. If it is not in his will to give you a car and you don't get the car, you're going to say, he didn't answer my prayer. No, he did answer your prayer. And the answer was no, because in his will, it's no. We love to put everything, the Bible says, whatever you ask, I will give you. We forget that little tag where it says in my name. We forget that little piece. And then we take it to say, oh, I just have to say in Jesus' name, amen. And that'll be fine. As long as I put in Jesus' name, amen, we're good. That's not what that meant in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You are asking him to put his stamp of approval on your request. And he has at any point in time the right to deny that request or approve it. It's that simple. Again, we don't get to decide this stuff. It is not our place. It's his will. When you sign up to be a Christian, You have given up your will. You are now living in His, and whatever He has planned, He will do. It is really that simple. But the reason why people don't want to is because they want what they want, and their wants beat God's wants. That's why they're upset. That's why you see so many fall from so called grace and fall from the church because they didn't get what they wanted. Jesus came and said, "Not thy will, but not my will, but yours." And if He can say it, who are you? Who are you? His will, His will, His will, His will, His. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We will see you guys tonight on Too Strong, and then Monday on Straight Talk again. I'm going to take this weekend to reset. It's been a tumultuous week. Very heavy topics for me, as well as some crazy stuff in personal world. And so I need to take this weekend to just kind of degauss. Inbox will still be open. But if I don't get back to you on a timely basis, just understand that I'm taking this weekend to try and make sure I recenter. So, okay. Thank you again for all of your input, guys, including Jaw. There's no hard feelings at all. None whatsoever. The apology was taken. Monday, I think I have a topic, but I can't remember. Like I said, it's a time for me to just kind of reset. But I'll let you know by the end of the day what the topics are for next week, so you get prepared for that. Love you guys. Have a grand rest of the weekend. If you don't show up for Too Strong tonight, we'll be tackling the Grammys tonight and all the symbolism and all the stuff tonight. So, including our take on the so-called Christian musicians that took part in it. We'll be doing all of that, breaking it all down. Wisdom calls to you from the street. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself and know